Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over a potential big winter storm for portions of the Northeast and Great Lakes. We're going to be going over how much snowfall you could be seeing with my personal exclusive snowfall forecast. We're also going to be dealing with a lot of cold air pressing in with this storm, so we'll talk about that as well and what effects that'll have on the storm. And this could potentially be the chance for some areas along the coast of the Northeast and also along parts of the southern Great Lakes to see their first snowfall, or at least first snowflakes of the season, because we could see some of that lake effect reach all the way down to the coast. So we're going to be talking about all of that in today's video, and we have a lot of stuff to cover, so let's get right into it. Let's start off with your current National Weather Service page. Now, we currently have wind advisories just scattered about in this tan color. That's through much of the Great Lakes as well as parts of the central United States, back through portions of the Rockies and then into the western United States. So pretty much covering much of the country, just kind of scattered around. In the darker brown there, that's where we're looking at high wind watches, and then high wind warnings are in effect for this kind of, I guess you call it a bronze color, almost a gold color, for portions of the Rockies, even portions of upstate New York, and into portions of Oregon and California. We also see a snow squall warning in effect for portions of Colorado, and we have some winter weather advisories scattered about through much of the Rockies as well and parts of the Cascades. We also see some winter storm warnings in effect for portions of Utah, Wyoming, also for portions of Oregon and Washington there. And then we see some red flag warnings scattered throughout much of the southern plains. So let's get right into it with the current GFS run. Then we'll look at the Euro model, and then we'll look at my personal forecast. So this would be by tonight. This would be right around 6 p.m. tonight, and we're looking at actually some flakes moving through portions of northeastern Minnesota. By this point, we're going to see this big system that's moving through portions of the Midwest. By this point, we have a low pressure up here. We have that cold air trying to press in, and by this point, the 32-degree line would be somewhat like this. And we're looking at also some of that rain ahead of there. So we will be dealing with some rain that might switch over to snow as we get later on. So again, this is by 6 p.m. Here would be this would be by right around midnight tonight, and we're looking at heavy snowfall over eastern Minnesota. Still hasn't moved into much of Wisconsin by this point, but notice that we also have that V-like shape in the isobars. That's a line of equal pressure. That indicates that you're having a bit of convection with this, so you will see a little bit of thunderstorm activity, especially throughout this region ahead of that inverted trough area. So that could actually spin up a little bit of convection with that. So here would be by Sunday around 6 a.m. So tomorrow around 6 a.m. we're dealing with heavy snowfall for portions of western Wisconsin, northeastern Minnesota, strong gusty winds coming out of the northwest, and that is going to be a big factor with this. So we're seeing these winds coming like this in the shape of the isobars, and that's kind of moving across Minnesota, Wisconsin, and then over into Michigan. So although most of this is in the form of rain, except as you get further west, some of this is still lake effect enhanced rain, and as we get colder on later on, and as we get colder throughout the day on Sunday and into Monday, some of that will switch over to snow. And because of how strong this wind is, it's gonna really blow all the way to the coast in some scenarios. The European model has a much windier solution than the GFS, but still both of them have a very windy solution. So here would be by right around 12 p.m. tomorrow, Sunday, the 15th of November, and we're looking at northern Michigan, northern Wisconsin, the UP of Michigan, also looking at some of that heavier snowfall because you're starting to see some of that cold air kind of spread into portions of the storm because it is bringing in some of that colder air from Canada. We see still that warm air being pulled up into the system, so we have a very dynamic system. We see a 975 low by this point, so it would be a very strong low pressure system. So we're seeing by this point, we'll switch over to what the northeast view is showing, that snow still out over portions of the Great Lakes. And as we continue forward, as this storm moves away, This will also, in my forecast at the end of the video, this will also include the potential lake effect snowfall right after the system. So I'll kind of count both of them as one storm. We're gonna see those strong winds blowing off the lake, and by this point, off the Great Lakes, and by this point they're blowing westward. So the main area to watch for would be right around this area because that's directly west of the Great Lakes. As the day goes on, these are gonna shift northwesterly, and by that point, the area to watch for some lake effect rain or snow would be this area because that is directly southeast of the lake. So that's just something we have to keep in mind, and this is going to be a very localized type of situation. Now, this would be by Monday, right around 7 in the morning Eastern time. So we're looking at some of that rain and snow showers moving through portions of upstate New York. As we continue, we see a little bit of a tiny trough move through portions of southern Canada, and that will also bring along with it some snow and also enhance some of that lake effect for portions of the Northeast. And as we continue forward, this is going to be going on. This would be by Monday night, and then going through all the day, all day on Tuesday. We're dealing with some lake effect snow and rain, and then going through Wednesday, it's going to continue with that lake effect snow and rain. So here's what the European model is showing for this event. Let's start off with what the European model shows for the Great Lakes, and we're actually looking at some of that rain-snow mix for portions of northeastern Minnesota. The European model is a little bit warmer than what the GFS model is showing, but it's also much windier, so that rain and snow, those rain and snow bands actually get much further to the coast, and I think the models are a little bit warmer than what is actually going to happen. I think by a degree or two. So that could really shift up the forecast. You'll see that reflected in my personal forecast at the end of the video. So here would be by Sunday. So tomorrow morning, right around 6 in the morning. So you're waking up by this point, and we're dealing with some snow for northern Wisconsin, the western UP of Michigan, maybe some mixing right ahead of there. But those thunderstorms still ahead of that in parts of Indiana, Kentucky, up through Michigan, and even into portions of eastern Wisconsin by this point. And then it starts to switch over to snow on the western end of the storm. Again, we're dealing with very warm air being pulled up ahead of this. So that warm air is being pulled up from portions of the southeastern United States. It's going to be very warm ahead of this. And then behind this, you're going to see that cold air come from central Canada, which in this case would be very cold by this point. So we're actually dealing with cold air as you get further to the west and to the north, and a very warm air mass as you get further ahead of the storm, where you're dealing with very, very warm conditions. So it will be a very dynamic system, and again, that's going to make it a little bit trickier to forecast. Now, here would be by Sunday night. As we're getting to right around midnight on Sunday, this is when we're going to move over to the northeast perspective of this storm. Some rain snow mixing for portions of northern Maine, parts of the interior northeast, and portions of northernmost upstate New York and westernmost upstate New York as well. Then as we continue into Monday, this is when the lake effect snow is going to really set in. By the way, here's your 32-degree line. These little pockets of red here, those red contours, that's indicating inside of there and to the north of there, that's where you're looking at 32 degrees or lower. So that's, of course, your freezing mark. And a lot of that rain and snow is not going to be inside of that freezing mark. It might be 33, 34 degrees, but you might still see some flakes flying. Now, here to be, as we're getting to Monday, right around lunchtime or so this will be right around 1 p.m. on Monday. That rain and snow still lingering for portions of the interior northeast, and it's really going to crank up as we get to Tuesday. This is when the lake effect machines will really start turning. This is when it's going to get very cold, especially Tuesday, Wednesday, and early on Thursday. It will be fairly cold for these regions, and it's going to get especially cold, I think, probably by Wednesday is when it should get the coldest out of all the days for the northeast. Rain and snow mixing still as we get to Tuesday. And as we go through the day on Tuesday, notice that some of these rain and snow showers are reaching the coast. Now, what this tells me is we're probably dealing with an atmosphere that is closer to 35 or 36 degrees over much of these areas still in the rain. Even though it's in 35 or 36 degree temperatures, the air aloft is very, very cold. So if you can get a temperature closer to 34 degrees, you might be able to produce a little bit of flaky action over portions of the coastal northeast. I think it's definitely a good chance that you'll see some snowfall, especially if you live in the interior northeast, and even if you get a little bit of elevation, that'll really help you get quite a bit of snowfall. And as we continue forward, Tuesday night, still lake effect machine still working. And as we continue through the day on Wednesday, the lake effect is starting to kind of tone down a little bit, but it is still quite potent. Now, here's the snowfall totals from the storm. Here's the European model, and we're looking at maybe pockets closer to 5 or 6 inches through portions of Michigan and maybe even into Minnesota or Wisconsin. We're dealing with generally a coating, though, for many of these regions, according to the European model. And then here's what it shows for the Northeast. And notice you do see a little bit of gray popping up. That's where you might see a dusting, 2 to 6 inches in those blues, 6 to 10 inches in the purples, and we are seeing that for portions of the highest elevations in the interior Northeast as well as portions of northwestern Maine. Now, here to be what the GFS model is showing for the same time period. This is all the snow going through Wednesday night into Thursday morning. So that would be Wednesday the 18th going into Thursday the 19th. We're looking at generally the same thing for the Great Lakes, except as you get further west, the GFS actually pumps out a lot more snowfall for northern Wisconsin and northeastern Minnesota, so that's something that we'll have to see. And I think that is actually quite accurate. I would probably go closer to 3 or 4 inches for those areas, though. I think the GFS is a little bit overdoing it in those regions. And then here would be what the GFS shows for the Northeast, and I think this is a little bit underdone from the GFS. I think this snow line might come a little bit further south. I don't think much of that will accumulate as it gets further to the coast, but I do think it'll be a little bit further south than what this is showing, and I also think you might see a little bit more snowfall in some of those interior areas than what this model is also showing. Now, here's my personal forecast. This is going from the 15th to the 18th, so from tomorrow all the way until Wednesday night. We're looking at under an inch of snowfall anywhere in this lighter blue. That's for portions of the northern Great Lakes and through the interior Northeast, and just fingering down into West Virginia and western Maryland there. And then flakes are possible in this region, in this yellow and the pink region. This is where we're dealing with potential for some flakes in these regions. I don't think it'll accumulate to much, if anything, maybe just a light dusting on some colder surfaces, but I do think maybe you could see some flakes if some of that cold air can come in fast enough, and also if that lake effect can actually come in later. So if the lake effect comes in later and it's actually the overnight hours, I think it's certainly possible that you could see overnight lows below 32 degrees. If you're also bringing in some of that lake effect snowfall, maybe you see some snowfall along the coast. It's definitely possible and something that we cannot rule out. 1 to 3 inches of snowfall for portions of the northern Great Lakes and the interior Northeast, especially as you get a little bit of elevation. That could really help you pump out a little bit more snowfall. 3 to 6 inches for portions of northeastern Minnesota, probably closer to 3 to 4 inches for those regions. 3 to 4 inches most likely again for portions of northern Pennsylvania, southwestern upstate New York. For the Adirondacks, probably closer to actually 6 inches. And then also for northern New England, that's where you're probably going to be closer to 4, 5, or 6 inches. And some areas could even see closer to 6, 7, 8, maybe even 9 or 10 inches in parts of northern Maine, as well as northwesternmost New Hampshire and northeastern Vermont. So hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. Be sure to leave a like, because that really helps it get around to more people. Please leave a comment if you have any questions or you want me to give you a personal forecast. I answer all of your comments for the most part. And also be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss one of my daily uploads. Anyways, guys, that is going to wrap it up for today's video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.